I'm Anthony Thaxton. Today on Southern Sketches, we're traveling back in time over 10 years to these vintage programs that I produced in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Now, we traveled across the South sketching and painting as we went. I think you're going to enjoy the subject matter. So stay tuned right now for a vintage encore presentation of Southern Sketches.
Coming up on today's episode of Southern Sketches, we'll visit the Mississippi Natural Science Museum in Jackson, where there's something fishy going on. Then we'll take a trip down the banks of the old river, where we'll be doing some bayou sketches. And finally, we'll complete a watercolor in the old river town of Vicksburg. So stay tuned.
Hi, welcome again to Southern Sketches. I'm Anthony Thaxton. As always, I'll be taking you on an artistic journaling tour of the American South. That's a big, fancy, mouthful way of saying we're going outside drawing. Today, we are visiting our home state of Mississippi. We're going to take a look at 3 different locations. First, we'll stop in the capital city of Jackson and visit the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science. Then we're going to take a trip to where my dad goes trot line fishing and catches catfish as big as your arm in the Old River Bayou area in South Mississippi. We'll take a stop in the Civil War city of Vicksburg, completing a watercolor of the old courthouse building. Finally, we'll see who's in the artist spotlight for this week. Let's get right into things by going to the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science in Jackson. Some of my earliest memories revolve around going to Jackson, Mississippi as a vacation when I was a child. My dad was a football coach and we didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't go on big vacations, but every year we would go up to the coach's clinic in Jackson and tour the museums while Dad was in meetings, or going to some of the meetings. And one of the things that we would like to do would go to the Natural Science Museum. I don't remember sketching as a child, but I do remember enjoying all of the exhibits and wanting to learn more about it. I was fascinated with how some of the things that we saw when we went camping and fishing were here on display in a museum for people who didn't get to see that sort of thing. It was really neat. Museums like this one are a neat thing for kids to go to, and now I take my own son to the museum and he is able to look and observe and see, and this seeing and this inspection can't help but lead to learning. Museum locations are great for young artists who are trying to learn how to draw. And a museum has a controlled environment, it's a safe location, and the kids can draw with their sketchbooks and have a variety of things right there at their fingertips. If you do go to the museum and sketch things like this turtle here, one of the things that you'll have to do will be to use a gesture type of approach to start with anyway. You're going to have to capture the things quickly. There's a fluidity, all the critters moving around. You've got to work quickly to capture it on paper. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking drawing gesture type drawings like this would be hard. Well, it is hard. People moving around, objects moving around, critters swimming and bobbing to and fro. It's hard to capture all of that. That's why you have to practice. You learn to draw by drawing. So take your pencil and capture it quickly on the paper. Gesture means that you're moving your pencil, you're trying to capture the essence of that movement as quickly as possible. So keep that pencil moving, get it on paper as quickly as you can. It will get easier, I promise you. If you're still not convinced, a lot of the museum exhibits are stuffed. They'll sit very still for you. As much fun as it is sketching in that controlled setting of the museum, there's just no substitute for being out on location, in nature, with the bugs and the mosquitoes flying. That's where we're going next, to the Old River Bayou area. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Anthony Thaxton. I hope you're enjoying these special encore presentations of vintage Southern Sketches programs that I did back over 10 years ago. If you'd like to find out more, see additional programs, find out other offerings that we have, and new exciting art releases, visit us at thaxtonstudios.com. We have lots of interesting artists. We have world-renowned illustrators and painters who are sharing what they know, and I think you'll find some interesting stuff, so be sure and visit our website at thaxtonstudios.com. And now back to the vintage program of Southern Sketches.
Hey, thanks for coming back. I'm Anthony Thaxton, Southern Sketches. We're going now on a trip to the Old River Bayou area in South Mississippi. This is where my dad took us camping and fishing growing up, running trot lines across the creek with hooks hanging down. He even baited the hooks, sometimes with crawfish, sometimes with little fish, sometimes with pieces of ivory soap cut with a cheese cutter, and ivory soap floats, you know, and it kind of bobs in the water, and the fish will strike at that, anything white like that. And besides that, if the fish bite the soap, they come out clean. Okay, anyway, we're going to take a trip to the Old River area. We're going to get nitty-gritty, out in the elements, sketching, having a blast. On this particular trip, I went with my mom, my dad, my son, and my wife, and we went fishing. Now, I'm not much of a fisherman, so I take the sketchbook. The rest of the family were enjoying a good time catching a few fish, not many. I spent the afternoon sketching, and it was a great time. One of the locations we went through getting to the bayou area was a location where there was some construction equipment, and they were cutting down some trees and clearing a path through the woods. Sometimes things like this, objects, big trucks, boys like to grow up drawing trucks and tractors, and there's still some of that in me. So I took a few moments to sketch this tractor, skidder thing. Being an artist mainly means being an observer. Capturing it on paper, you learn how to do that, but the biggest thing is learning how to see and learning to capture those little moments, doing video, doing artwork, photography, any of the visual mediums, you're learning how to see those particular moments. I came across one when we were walking out there. My mom and son were walking up ahead of us, and they were holding hands, and my mom had her fishing hat and her poles, and my son had his little overalls on, and it was a scene just straight out of something Norman Rockwell might have concocted. But this was everyday real life, and it meant more to me because this is my son, Bryant, and this is my mom, Linda. Sketching this footage was a lot of fun, and later I could take this sketch and do a more detailed, more advanced drawing by using this as a guide, using this as a study. My brother Bobby and his dog Chip joined us on the trip. His socks are kind of unfortunate. Chip took a little time swimming in the water, so I did a little sketch of this as well. Remember, you learn to draw by drawing. Get those pencils busy. Some people think that drawing is this inherent, innate gift. It was given to you at birth, and I believe that to some degree, but you can develop any of your skills to a higher degree. If you stopped talking when you were at the age of 5, you would talk like a 5-year-old. But if you keep drawing from the age of 5, your drawings won't look like 5-year-old drawings. Now, they may not look as good as some of the other drawings, but mine don't either. I'm learning. I'm still in the process of growing as an artist. You learn to draw, though, by getting that pencil and getting it on the paper. You just can't beat it. Being outside, in the elements, your family with you, enjoying nature. So if you're an artist and you like to draw, you can work it into family activities. You don't have to not go fishing if you don't like fishing. Take your pencil. You can still have fun and still be a part of the family. Or they can be a part of this glorious artistic creation that you're doing. The day was a lot of fun, and the fish that we caught really tasted pretty good as well. My dad's a pretty good cook. My mom says he's not that good at cleaning up the kitchen afterwards, but that's another episode. Coming up next, we'll complete a little more advanced work of art, a watercolor sketch of the courthouse building in Vicksburg. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Anthony Thaxton. I hope you're enjoying these special encore presentations of vintage Southern Sketches programs that I did back over 10 years ago. If you'd like to find out more, see additional programs, find out other offerings that we have, and new exciting art releases, visit us at thaxtonstudios.com. We have lots of interesting artists. We have world-renowned illustrators and painters who are sharing what they know, and I think you'll find some interesting stuff, so be sure and visit our website at thaxtonstudios.com. And now back to the vintage program of Southern Sketches.
I was acting like I was drawing something, kind of a segue back from the break. Hope you enjoyed that. Our next stop is Vicksburg, Mississippi. Now, if you're in other parts of the country, one of the first things that is thought of when the South comes up is the Civil War. Well, I would hate to disappoint you, so we're going to Vicksburg, which was one of the key cities in Civil War history. The courthouse that we're painting today factors into that tradition. It was from this courthouse that the Stars and Stripes were flown right after the surrender of Vicksburg. General Grant reviewed his troops coming through there. So the courthouse is rich with history. We'll be working from this photograph that I took about a year ago. Notice the background in the photograph is just of a clear blue sky. We're going to add some clouds to make it kind of different, add some variety, some interest. If you haven't done this, you can practice clouds just on another sheet of paper. Clouds are neat. They are you don't think of them as being too fluffy. They're big solid masses in the sky with light and dark shading. So adding that in, putting some color. The brush I'm using is just a Cheap Joe's Art Supply brush. It's a number 14. It can do some really thin lines. It can also do some really large areas pretty quickly. I used to work with a larger brush and do the whole thing like that, but I couldn't get some of the detail areas that I wanted. With watercolor, you have to work very quickly. If not, some of the paper will dry and it will create little messes. Sometimes you can use that to make good things happen. All of painting is just kind of solving problems. You fix the things that are going wrong. You put down some paint, doesn't look right. You have to fix that. Okay. You have to make sure your water doesn't get too muddy. You want to clean it up. U.S. presidents like Theodore Roosevelt and McKinley have visited the place. Also Booker T. Washington. Lots of famous, notable people have spoken there at the museum. Architectural things like this are really neat to me. This building was almost destroyed once, and one lady in the town led the fight to preserve the building. I forget her name, but if not for that, we wouldn't have it here to paint today. So we appreciate your efforts, unsung hero. Watch these colors bleed together. A renowned watercolor artist who wrote a good book about watercolor, John Pike, once said that watercolor is the only medium that fights back. I like that very much. Watercolor moves when you put it on paper. No other medium keeps on changing like that. And watercolor, once you learn how to do that, that's the thing that most people are scared of with watercolor. They're scared that the colors are going to run together. That's the great thing about watercolor. It takes and makes some of these gradients. It mixes these colors that you couldn't possibly mix yourself. So that's one of the things that you need to celebrate with watercolor. And once you learn how to do that just a little bit and charge those colors together and let them bleed there together, your paintings are just going to sparkle. The color's just going to jump off the page. People are going to say, wow, oh, paint, magic fingers, paint. I'm still learning what I'm doing. This isn't the best painting in the world. It's not the worst, but I'm still learning. And that's part of the process of being a watercolor artist. You have to go with the flow. Now this is a small painting. A lot of people shy away from doing some of the smaller paintings, but I've found that a lot of people want to purchase small paintings. They have a small area in their house or a bathroom or a hallway where a large painting really wouldn't fit. So a little small painting like this might be just the ticket. Also, when you're just learning how to paint, paper can get expensive very quickly. Watercolor paper, good watercolor paper, is pretty expensive. So you don't want to be wasting a lot of it learning what you're doing on some big honking painting. You want to learn on these smaller things, sort of like learn how to do a short story before you tackle a huge novel, perhaps. But there's also, in doing a short story, sometimes you have to learn an economy. And in a watercolor painting like this, you are learning what not to put in as much as you're learning what to put in. Okay, we're going to add some details here on this clock. I'm going to use a credit card and kind of scrape out here, this area. Scraping in. This is tearing some of the paper underneath and leaving some white area there. You don't want to overdo that. Scrape out a little bit of this cloth. Okay. The South is a great place. It has a lot of this history, a lot of storytelling, and that's what we're doing with the brush. We're painting, we're telling a story with paint. Who's in the artist spotlight for this week? Robin Whitfield from Grenada, Mississippi, in keeping with our Mississippi theme.
Being from Mississippi has been I've been very conscious of being a Mississippian, and in a very deep way. And I've always known that I wanted to stay here, and I've always known that I was going to be an artist. So in a sense, I can't separate those two at all. I mean, they're inseparable to me. And I've always known as an artist that it was my greatest interest to try to discover Mississippi at the deepest level I could. And for me, discovering Mississippi on a very natural, as far as the natural world, is coming to be my personal vision. I'm very aware that the natural Mississippi is just my consuming passion, really. I mean, I really have no other words to say. Even when I'm not painting, I mean, I'm in a creek, I'm looking at our historical Mississippi, I'm looking for fossils. I love finding pottery and arrowheads. But I think, you know, as botany has become also my thing. And in fact, painting is my excuse to study Mississippi and to study the plants and the animals. And I think I mean, the painting is just the byproduct.
Robin is truly a great artist who works in oils and watercolors. Let's check back and see how our watercolor is going. Okay, we're wrapping up the painting now in the home stretch. Just painting colors. The colors are vibrant. Just trying to make it where it's not dull. I really see these colors, but you're wanting to kind of enhance. You're wanting to do a work of art. If you wanted to take a photo, you could just take a photo, which I did take a photo, but now I'm painting from the photo. Okay. Painting from a photo is another thing. There are some artists who wouldn't work from a photograph for anything. No, you have to be on location. And as you saw earlier when we visited the Old River Bayou area, I like drawing and working on location, but sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes with weather, sometimes with timing, sometimes when you're doing a television program, you can't go on location just anytime you want. So one of the things that you can do would work from a photograph. I personally like it. I can be as free in the studio. I don't have to have the bugs eating me to be able to do a work of art. It is fun to get on location, and I highly recommend that. But if not, there's nothing wrong with working from a photograph. I will even freeze frame videos sometimes. When we go on location, I don't have a camera, but I have a video camera. I'll freeze frame a video image and work from that. And video is neat because a television screen has the light coming out of it, and it's bright anyway, so I think it actually helps my paintings. And it helps me focus and narrow in. Sometimes working on location, things change too much, the lighting changes. And if you had a picture of that location, you could work from the studio. Maybe you can start on location and then do it the way you want to do it. That's about it. Well, let me fix this one little area here. You got to be careful about the one more thing. You wind up messing up the whole thing. That's about it. That's about all the damage we're going to do on this one. River City of Vicksburg, a beautiful place. The South is full of beautiful places, beautiful people. Get out there and capture some of it. We're going to leave you now with some other images of paintings that I did from Mississippi scenes. For Southern Sketches, I'm Anthony Thaxton. We appreciate you joining us. See you next time. We hope you've enjoyed today's special encore presentation of a Vintage Southern Sketches program. I'm Anthony Thaxton. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and visit thaxtonstudios.com. Find out more about what's happening today and what videos and programs and exciting offers that we have. I'm Anthony Thaxton. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.